Sausage.
Hello, everyone. This is Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Mark Kuznez, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about Hyper Gunsport. It's what you call volleyball, but with guns. Sans the sand, and sans the fun. You may be asking yourself, how the hell did you end up on Hyper Gunsport? I've never heard of the game. I, too, never heard of it until I asked my Xbox to surprise me, and surprise me it did. What appeared in front of me was the game card for Hyper Gunsport, a 2D volleyball game set in a cyberpunk world for either 1v1 or 2v2 play, with mostly beautiful pixel art and guns instead of hands, which isn't to say you have guns for hands, but that you shoot balls instead of smacking them. That's it. It's incredibly simple, and it sounds like it should be fun for a night or two, if not more. But thanks to loose controls and a limited selection of modes, it was nothing but a borderline excruciating bore. Quote the Haley, Paramore. I don't know, don't ask me. Teams are made up of two players, a striker and a keeper, and the way you score when no modifiers are active is by shooting the ball into one of the goals on your opponent's side. The amount awarded for a goal depends on the color. Green equals 1, yellow equals 3, and red equals 5. In addition to scoring for goals, there's a bonus for how many times the ball goes back and forth over the net during a volley. Doesn't really sound like volleyball, does it? Well, if you turn on the modifier for scoring points when the ball hits the ground, then it kind of does. But closeness to volleyball aside, what kills this basic premise are controls that feel terrible. Hyper Gunsport has one of my least favorite kinds of jumps. Everything from the initiation to the apex is fine, the speed and animation, but as soon as you hit your apex, you fall to the ground like an anvil and it feels terrible. I hate jumps where everything feels fine to start, but once you start making your descent, you fall faster than you rose, and that's exactly how the jump in Hyper Gunsport works, except there's a smidge of a delay at the apex to go along with it, so it's almost as if you're Wile E. Coyote jumping off a cliff only to realize at your apex that there's nothing below you, so you fall and fall fast. Needless to say, it doesn't feel good. Not to be outdone, the shooting also feels terrible, especially when playing as a striker. Just to get out of the way, the other position, the keeper, is simple and straightforward. Think of them as a goalie, except they're stationary. All you can do as a keeper is fire your gun from the back of your area. You can't move, can't jump, and your only advantage over the striker is the ability to shoot a few more times before needing to reload your gun. The keeper may sound boring, but thanks to a dumbing down of the mechanics, it's significantly more fun playing as a keeper than a striker, unless you turn on the accessibility options. This is because aiming with a gamepad is far too imprecise given the speed at which volleys play out. One of these striker's perks is being able to shoot downward because, volleyball and spiking, but in practice, actually accurately shooting the ball downward is a nightmare, even though the ball is ginormous. This is where the accessibility options come into play. I was ready to quit the game after 10 minutes, but I figured I might as well see how the accessibility options work before giving it the heave-ho. There are two gameplay accessibility options to speak of: aim assist and move assist. Aim assist features two versions, post shot and full, and move assist is more simplified with merely an on or off toggle. Now, given that they're called assist modes, you'd probably think that means they'd assist you during play and make things like aiming easier. That's not how they work. What would have been a more accurate aim is auto aim and auto move, because that's what they do. If you aim or move when these options are turned on, they do nothing. But if you leave the analog sticks alone, the AI will take over and both move and aim for you, leaving nothing but the shooting to you. While this may sound like the most boring way to play the game, it's actually the most enjoyable. This is because it takes control of the worst parts of the game away from you and instead allows you to focus on the only thing that matters: shooting, turning the game into more of a timing-based experience, and it's all the better for it. Does it make it a good game? No, but it does make it a playable one, and you have to give it something for that. I went in Hyper Gunsport with an open mind and even a mildly optimistic mind, but what I experienced was one of the worst arcadey future sports games I've played in a while, making it immediately apparent why I and you have never heard of this game. The basic rules are boring, and even when modifiers are added, it doesn't fare much better. In some cases, it's even worse, like when they decided to make the final match in the circuit mode an underwater match where everything feels like you're playing underwater, and it's even worse than it sounds. Despite featuring some nice art, especially the background art, and looking like it might be a good time it is not. With a limited selection of modes, just a circuit mode and a versus mode, the circuit mode being a traditional fighting game type of tournament mode, and the versus mode being exactly what you would expect it to be. There's not much reason to keep coming back, and keep coming back I will not. And with that, I shall say my goodbyes and my good nights. So that will do it for this here episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me over at patreon.com/PX. And of course, if you'd like links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, the Patreon, and more, you can find all of them over at pxsausage.com. That is, again, pxsausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day and a lovely rest of your whatever, weekend, week, etc. Just be lovely, people. All right. Adios. Arrivederci. Bye.